So this one is called the Merci meditation. It's a variation, a technique I call somatic alchemical translation, which is a fancy way of saying essentially take something in your body, some rhythm, some sensation, and try to sync it with a word or a phrase that you want to use. So in the Merci meditation, right, what we're going to do is we're going to assume our meditative position. This is one we can do sitting down, lying down. This is one we could also try to do walking, as long as we're not in a situation where we're in any physical danger. And so what we want to do is we take a few breaths, right? We kind of set our meditative intention, and we're going to try to find our heartbeat. See if we can feel our heartbeat inside. And sometimes we can feel it directly in the chest. One thing I like to do is take the pulse on your wrist or on your throat, and then you feel it there, and sometimes that allows me to then sync up and have the feeling here. And once I can kind of feel the drumbeat of my pulse going on, what I do is I essentially kind of match lyrics with that drumbeat. And the lyric I want to use in this meditation is merci, right? I'm using the French spelling to give myself a little double entendre there. It means thank you in French. It also, of course, means mercy in English. And so for a somatic alchemical translation, I like to use that one because it's got that flexibility in it. It gives me a little play. It's a bit of a wink and a nod too. It takes some of the seriousness out of it because we're using wordplay. And so I find that pulse, and where that beat is, I try to match that beat. Merci, 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 right? I'm doing it out loud here in the meditative technique. I'd likely be doing it in my head. One thing I notice right away when I do this is things kind of like quiet down in me, because it's kind of like my mind is a project, the mind is a task, and the mind loves having a project and a task, right? So we're giving it something to do, and the mind is tracking the heart, tracking the phrase, are they synced up together, right? So it's a nice way to give the mind a little occupation. It also helps me feel and connect into the heart, right? Which is always a good thing, right? Oftentimes we'll go days, weeks, maybe even months, not even thinking about our physical heart, at least not for long. And so this technique gets us to really tap into the actual raw pumping energy of the heart. We also then are setting in our minds a positive and a peaceful intention. Usually in our minds, a lot of the time, it's this kind of churning mix of positive and negative, especially if we're stressful, right? The negative tends to become more prominent. So what we're doing is we're kind of putting chiller vibes into our body, right? Where there was a lot of like construction noise before, now we have kind of just a gentle gong or a cymbal that we're having, right? The sound of merci, merci, merci. And so one variation of the technique is to just do that for the entire meditative period. You're in your posture, you're feeling the pulse, and you're just syncing that pulse to the sound of this word, merci, merci. You're essentially letting your heart speak this word, letting your heart sing it over and over and over again. Now, what I found is there's a couple different things to add on which can enhance the experience. So one thing I notice is as I'm doing that, sometimes areas of tension in my body will start to arise. I may feel it in my stomach, I may feel it in my legs, I may feel it up in my head. I also feel it a lot in my throat. And again, when that happens, when we're not in a meditative state and we're kind of going about our day, we're shopping, we're driving, and we're doing something, right? And then those feelings come up, we tend to make a guilt by association judgment, right? A post hoc ergo propter hoc. We say, okay, well, this must have caused that, right? It must have been because I was grocery shopping that I got this tension. I must hate grocery shopping, right? Or, oh, I picked out this can of beans, right? The mind will find a way to blame its unpleasant sensations on anything. And oftentimes it'll try to find something that happened just beforehand and point the finger at that. What I like about this technique is it's really hard to take that seriously when all you're doing is connecting to the feeling of your heart and essentially expressing a message of peace. What I think this invites us to understand is these feelings of tension, kind of counterintuitively, they're not arising necessarily as an indicator that something's wrong with what we're doing in that moment. Sometimes what's happening is in that moment, the heart is opening. And these tensions want to come into the space of the open heart to be healed, right? The open heart is kind of like they're like hidden in the wilderness, and this is like a nice warm campfire that they see that they can gather around. So they start to kind of come out of their bushes and their shrubs, come out from under their rocks, and they want to kind of come in and receive it. But we, right, wanting to keep unpleasant feelings away, as soon as they arise, we think, oh no, this is bad. In this meditation, we get an opportunity to kind of flip the script on that. So we're doing our pulse, right? Merci, merci, merci. And those tensions start to rise up. Again, these things wanting to come into the light and the warmth of this opening heart. We don't begrudge them. We don't get upset. We're actually grateful. Why? Because we now have new things to try our alchemical or somatic alchemical translation on, right? So before I was doing mercy on the pulse. Now let's say I get kind of a vibration in my head. What I'll do is I'll consciously shift my attention away from the heart up to that area. I'll feel into that tension in that space. And then as best I can, I try to do that same thing. I try to have the words speak for that energy. I try to kind of sync it up. So if it's a fast vibrating energy, I might start going mercy, 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 mercy. And what I almost always find is as I do it, especially if I try to honor that energy by kind of meeting it where it is, it will naturally sync up with the heart. It's kind of wild. But if I treat it as a bad thing, an evil thing, an unwelcome guest, or if I'm kind of going like mercy, 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 just like kind of waiting for it to go away, that's kind of dishonoring it, that's treating it poorly, that's actually closing our heart. And so what's likely to happen is they're just going to continue where they are and not be resolved. If we want to kind of invite this energy to migrate from its stuck places in our body into the heart where it can be naturally liberated, right? What we do is we go to the place, we bring that same heart message, that same heart song to that location. Again, we try to match its rhythm, its intensity, in some way kind of honor it or sync with it. Think of it kind of like a duet. It's putting out its energy, its song, which is a song of tension, frustration, anger, fear, right? And we meet it with the song of mercy, 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 mercy. And then naturally what we'll see is it'll sync up to the heart. You can also then alternate, right? Do a little time on that. If it's feeling stuck, it's not going anywhere, go back to the heart for a little while. Go mercy off of that. Then try to come back to that stuck spot. And I think you'll find that gradually what this does is in the moment it helps to resolve some of this. It also then trains the mind to approach the arising of these unpleasant sensations with more empathy, more respect, more consideration, instead of just being instantly and kind of reflexively averse, which again only just adds to the tension and insecurity here. If we're more open and we're more welcoming, we're more engaging, we actually want to try to dance with it, get intimate with it, this is where magic can happen. This is where we can take stuckness that's been there for even years, maybe even our whole life, and begin to gradually soften it. Again, in the moment of the meditation that happens, and as we do the meditation, we're training the mind to do that outside of the meditative moment. Okay, so additional variations on the technique, right? I talked about syncing with the heart. I talked about alternating into syncing with stuck or tense energies. What you can also do is use different words, right? So I use this word merci, which again is thanks in French, also mercy in English. You could pivot, right? Gracias in Spanish, right? Thank you in English. Pick any language in the world, right? Even pick languages you don't know, right? Danke, arigato, right? You can use Google Translate or something like that, but like pull some words out there, right? And put them out there, right? Those words and those languages have the message of thanks infused in them, right? And I think what I find is kind of wild is I use them here, and even though those words don't necessarily mean anything to me because I'm not a native speaker, they still have a similar effect. It's kind of interesting. They have like a resonance to them, which achieves a similar effect in the body, which is of calming, of acceptance, and gradually of a setting in of a harmony. So as that word merci begins to kind of get worn out for you, it begins to feel kind of just like a tape looping, switch it up. Pick a different word that means something similar and go with it. You can also get out of the gratitude kind of set of words entirely and go to other positive statements. Love, peace, harmony, kindness, acceptance. Right? This technique of somatic alchemical translation, there's no real rules, right? The thing, the technique is just taking a word and syncing it up with a bodily energy, right? And then using our intention to deliberately keep them synced, try to bring them into some kind of harmony or resonance with each other. And so as one word gets kind of worn out or tired, boom, swap in a different one, experiment. You may start to notice which words are kind of generating more experience for you than others. Which ones are leading to more liberation and softness? Do you maybe tense up around some? Play with that, experiment with it. You may even keep a journal or something like that of which words tend to work for you on which days and which ones don't. And I would say don't just stick with the words that do seem to work for you, right? Play with the ones that don't work and see if you can kind of get to what's that about? Why is this one troubling me? Sometimes in the ones that are initially troubling, you actually find a deeper release down there, but it requires some involvement and some inquiry to get there. The last thing I'll say for this technique is eventually what you might want to do is give the words a break entirely for a while, right? So you've been doing merci on the heart, right? You've expanded merci out to areas of tension in the body. We've pivoted to other words of gratitude. We've pivoted to words beyond gratitude. And now maybe we just don't use words at all. Maybe we now just feel the heart beating. Maybe now we just feel that tension in the body, right? Kind of calling out. And we're just with it. We're just with it. And I think what you'll find is if you've been doing the technique for a while during the meditation, you've really been kind of pumping those words out there. It's kind of like waves in a wave pool, right? You're still going to have the thought of mercy, right? That thought of love, that thought of peace, that thought of thanks. It's still going to be in the pool, right? The moment you get out, it's not like the waves all stop, right? The waves keep going. And so the analogy here is when you stop using the words, you stop speaking, you're still going to have that vibe, that harmonic vibe still working. And this is an opportunity to just notice on a physical level, on the level of sensation, what does my heart feel like right now? What do those areas of tension feel like? How does that compare to what it was like before? And then as you go back into the technique and start saying, okay, I've taken a minute or two of silence. Now I'm going to start saying the words again. What happens when I start using the words again? Does it ramp up? Does it go down? This technique is really one that welcomes a lot of noticing in the body. And the more we're noticing on the level of sensation and very simple patterns, right? Let's not get too theoretical about it or too conceptual. We don't want to start necessarily diving back into the past and trying to think about how this one got here, right? It's a useful technique, but not really for this meditation. In this meditation, what we're really trying to do is to help the mind and the heart get more in sync with the body, with what's going on in the body, and to really find those stuck energies. And to remember that this heart is this natural dynamo we have that can untangle these knots, right? Uncoil these kind of tangled up cords we have. But it takes time, and it takes a proper technique usually for it to happen. And so any technique we can have that can open the heart and can bring our awareness in alignment with the heart is one that tends to lead to the best results. This technique is one I found that does that, and I hope it works for you.